Atlas RFID was founded in 2007 to bridge the gap between auto ID and efficiency-conscious firms. Our software product, Jovix, utilizes RFID and barcodes to track materials from fabrication to installation, both online and via mobile. This is material readiness, and that means skilled labor, including welders, pipe fitters, and installation crews, spend less time waiting on materials and more time on tools. Jovix has been deployed on over 300 sites in 10 countries spanning 5 continents.
Welcome to the webinar. My name is Jeff Burns. I'm a product manager at Atlas, and today we're going to review the 2017.11 updates, which include the Open API. Jeffrey Rogers is going to take us through that API. But first, we're going to talk about the company and what we do. Then we'll go into Jeffrey's section about the API, and then I will wrap it up with some news and updates. So our vision is to become the best in the world in providing real-time geocontextual and relational visibility regarding construction materials from fabrication to installation. So that's our scope. We're in with the site suppliers, and one site can have lots of suppliers of materials, and we're with many fabricators, and we follow those materials all the way to the point of installation. We have a passionate team that works to develop innovative solutions to complex problems that foster transformation on a global scale. And our pledge is to never give up on an implementation, and we'll do whatever it takes to ensure adoption on your project. And so how do we do this? We have a great team. We have a lot of folks in the field working on sites hand in hand with the site managers. We work hard to recruit and retain the best possible talent, both in the field and here at the home office. And we're all passionate about winning, and we're not satisfied with anything less than true excellence. So our product is a solution, a complete solution, including hardware, software, and services. I mentioned those services, both support and development, but also those people in the field that are doing training and helping those site managers get the job done. As you can see, we obviously have the software that helps you track your materials using a desktop or a laptop computer, or we also have tablets and mobile phones in the field. And of course, we have our hardware, our RFID tags. Sometimes we use barcodes, gate readers, vehicle-mounted antennas. We call it vehicle-mounted readers. So our product is the complete solution. And our software is called Jovix. So it stands for Job Site Visibility Extension. And we developed it expressly for the construction industry in tracking these materials. You can see this graphic on this tablet. That's actually a real screenshot from the program, and it helps you navigate exactly to where your material is. Not just based off GPS, but it also pulls in that RFID, and we have a location algorithm that will bring you directly to it. But that's just the beginning of it. We call that track and trace. You actually have complete planning tools within the software. You can plan out work packages months ahead of time, and you can proactively manage your schedule and understand what's going to be here and what's not going to be here based on those materials that may be at the fabricator or maybe being shipped. And it's all one source of truth. If everyone on site is working with Excel, they each have different versions of where materials should be. But this is all located in the cloud, and it's all updated real time. And anyone with a license or anyone with a login can just log in and see the materials and monitor the progress, whether they're on site or not, and it's all the same source. So there's many different modules to it. We've got inspections. You can look up material details, do that work planning. There's lots you can do with it. And like I said, it's all one source. And the GPS locations of these materials are stored in the software. So you can see there on the right side, you can have a map. There's also, that's an engineering map, but you can also have a satellite imagery. You can click on a material, you can see exactly where it is, or you could look at the map and see where everything is. So that core functionality of track and trace is excellent. What's great is we also have integrated with multiple other client IT systems. We're designed to be a complementary and synergistic extension of world-class systems, and through our APIs and connectors to the industry-leading systems, we strive for seamless integration of data across all relevant platforms. So these are a number of platforms we've already plugged into, but we've also got our open API, so just allows us to really work with any system out there. We're going to take a deeper dive into that API in just a moment, and it is going to be technical in nature. Jeffrey's going to talk about our how the API actually plugs in and what it looks like. But for non-technical folks, it'll still be interesting to see how the system can seamlessly plug into an existing system that you already know and use. So now I'm going to hand it over to Jeffrey Rogers to talk about our API.
All right, thank you, Jeff. As he said, my name is Jeffrey Rogers. I'm on the technical product management team here at Atlas RFID. Today I'm going to talk to you about an API. You might be asking yourself, what is an API and why do I care that you have one? Well, we're going to talk about that real quick and give you some high-level context that you can take back with you. So APIs are application programming interfaces. They allow software applications to work together. You can make software applications work together in a number of ways, but one of the benefits of APIs is you don't have to know the inner workings of individual systems. You just establish a contract for your application and you work with the contract that's been presented by the other application, and they're able to transfer data around. And one of the things that this allows you to do is, for Jovix in particular, you can extend the functionality of existing systems that you might already use, such as Oracle P6, Bentley ConstructSim, Intergraph Smart Plant Materials, and various other applications as well. You can also write your own apps to extend the functionality of Jovix, which is very powerful in order to get certain data that Jovix may have proprietary control over, but you can have that data and share it with those other systems, or you can just run utility applications on the side to do additional reporting out of Jovix that maybe it doesn't offer out of the box. Moving on to some of the more details. So from the technical perspective, just for those that are interested, this is a RESTful API. We established the protocol around JSON content. We use JSON web tokens for authentication and authorization. If that doesn't mean anything to you, don't worry about it. That's just for some of the folks that may be interested from an engineering perspective of what it is that we offer. At a higher level, we offer 30 plus resources. A lot of these you would recognize as the different entities that are available in Jovix, such as materials, purchase orders, shipments, things like that. We also offer, across those resources, more than 140 endpoints so that you can get your data, you can post new data, patch to make updates, and delete content as you see fit. Every day we're adding more to the API as well, so you can always check in for future webinars or future release notes to see what we've added there. So now, after that brief introduction to APIs, I'll move over to our Jovix developer portal, which is where we have a lot of information for reference for the developers out there that want to connect to Jovix and extend the functionality or use that as an integration mechanism for existing systems. So a couple of links that we have here on the main screen. We have this Jovix REST API reference. So as soon as you get comfortable with working with the Jovix REST API, you can click on this link. It will take you to a detailed screen where you can look through all the reference material that we have available in the API. We'll take a look at that in just a second. You can also use this screen as a quick tutorial on getting started. So even those that are familiar with APIs, it's always helpful to have a leg up when it comes to how do I get started with authentication. So we've got a couple of calls down here that will hopefully give you some bearing as you get used to that. You'll notice also we have this run in Postman option. If I click that, you get the option to download a sample collection. So hopefully this will give you some example calls that you can make within your system. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to switch over first to the REST API documentation so that you can get a brief understanding of how this is organized, and then we'll actually jump into the Postman collection that's available from the website, and I'll show you a couple of demo options there. So starting out with the documentation, over here on the left side we've got the list of all the resources that I mentioned. So again, we've got more than 30 resources currently available in the API. Here in the middle section we've got some of the details around this is the contract portion of the API, so this gives you all the information that you should need to know how to work with the API and make those calls. And then on the side, on the far right side here, you have some example content. We show you some example structures of what some of the responses might look like to just help you understand how to do the programming on your side. So scrolling back up just a little bit to look at the authentication section. Here, this goes into a little bit more detail about our authentication method, which is the first call is based on basic authentication, where you pass in basically your username and password, almost as if you're logging into the application. And when you do that, you'll get this response over here on the right, which is both an access token as well as a refresh token. Your access token is then what you would use as part of this bearer authorization scheme that will get you access into those individual endpoints to either get data or modify data. The refresh token can be used at any point. If an access token has expired, you can use the refresh token to re-authenticate without having to pass in your basic credentials. So just an example, moving further down in the documentation here, this is the materials endpoint. Here, this gets you a list of materials that meet certain filter criteria. Here we show you what fields you can perform the filter criteria against, such as the name, project ID, job ID. And then we have a list of the individual operators that you can use, such as the equals for an exact match. You can also find materials that just start with a certain name. So if you're already familiar with Jovix, you know the power that is in the data grid within the Silverlight user interface. So this is mimicking some of that functionality through the API as well. All right, so that's a quick overview of the documentation. So now what I'll do is I'll pull up Postman here, and we'll go ahead, and this right here is the sample collection that you would actually download from the website. And you'll see that it's got some things already configured in Postman to make it hopefully a little bit easier to navigate around. Starting out on this token, we're going to look at one thing, which is this base URL. If you're not familiar with Postman, this is just one of the handy tools within the tool that allows you to configure these environments to allow you to separate URLs, different environments that you want to work with without having to go and change all of the different calls that you have in your collection. If you didn't want to do this, this would be the equivalent of whatever your server and your instance name is. That would just be what you would plug in here. So for my example, this base URL, you can see when I hover it over it that I'm pointing to one of our dev machines, and it's pointing to an instance called Jovix QA/API/v1. So this is the first version of the API. And so here I'm hitting the token resource. And what I'm doing is I'm telling Postman that this is a basic authentication request. I've entered my username and password, and when I click send, I'm actually going to get a response that includes both an access token as well as a refresh token. All right, so if you're not familiar with JSON web tokens, just realize that there's some information out there on the web, and we also point to it in our API documentation here. But this is essentially what you get back after you've successfully authenticated. This then is what you would use on a subsequent request to, for example, the materials endpoint. You would add in an authorization header here, and then you see here I've got this header auth, which using the environment configuration within Postman, you can see it automatically plugs in this bearer token with the JSON web token appended to that. So this is done with a handy little trick of tests. You can see in here where I'm just saying on a successful response, go ahead and populate this header auth JWT with the access token. Again, this is getting into more of the technical details, but at a high level, what we're going to do next is we're going to take this JSON web token, we're going to make a call to the materials endpoint and just show you, for example, that you can get a list of materials back using this API, and hopefully over on the left-hand side you can see some of the other resources that we have available as well. This is intended to give you a head start, getting used to the API. If this doesn't make sense to you, if you want to pass this information on to the engineering team to play around with the API, that's what this is intended for. But just give you a quick overview of what the API looks like. So jumping back now into the documentation, you can see we've got a lot of extra information that's not included in that sample collection. And reiterating the point of we are providing an API for this interoperability with other systems. This is a powerful tool that you're able to use for integrating into existing systems that you use today. Jovix is able to extend a lot of the site materials management to your current offerings, and we are looking forward to your feedback.
Okay, thanks, Jeffrey. We appreciate that. So I want to talk to you all about the future direction of Atlas and our Jovix software, our hardware, and our integrations. So we've got a lot of interesting things on the horizon. With our software, we're enhancing the product reporting. We're launching multiple new features in the mobile app. That is our Android mobile app. We've got iOS, Apple certification around the corner. We're making, as far as hardware goes, we're making our software work, our phone work with our active tags. We're certifying a lower cost active tag. We've got we're going to be using the phone camera as a barcode scanner. We've got a drone-mounted reader project, which I'm going to talk. We're actually going to watch a video about in just a little while. I mentioned the Apple stuff. We've got a wearable RFID reader. It's a ring reader that just goes around the knuckles of the hand. We've certified that, and that's actually being used on sites. For integrations, we've standardized business analytics intelligence reports. So very powerful, customized reports available from the system. And of course, we've got the open API endpoints that Jeffrey talked about that we're continuing to develop. So now we want to play a video that talks about our drone-mounted reader. This is a project we've got going on. It's in proof of concept stage right now. We have proven its value on a construction site. We've actually tested it in real-world scenarios, and it works really well. So now let's play this video and let you learn about our drone program.
The drone-mounted reader was born out of client requests and a desire to create an aerial sweeping system to find materials. Drones are currently used across construction sites for surveying, volumetric measurements, photo progress updates, and things like that. So we designed the drone-mounted reader to bolt onto this existing piece of technology and utilize it in a way that hasn't been done before. Setting up the autonomous flight path is a straightforward and easy process. After the flight plan is loaded and all the safety checks have been completed, the drone automatically takes off, retracts its landing gear, and begins the mission. It flies a lawnmower pattern above the laydown yard, and once the mission is complete, the drone automatically lowers its landing gear and lands at the designated home spot. The drone has multiple features that ensure safety. If the drone loses signal to the controller, it automatically climbs to a safe altitude, then flies to the preset home location and executes an autonomous landing. It can lose 2 motors and props and still make a safe automatic landing. If battery power gets too low, it will execute the automatic return to home sequence before the batteries are depleted. Also, using a drone for aerial sweeps means 1 fewer truck driving around the site for the sake of sweeps and fewer folks doing manual sweeps. One of the benefits of using the drone-mounted reader is to reduce the overall foot traffic on the laydown yard, as well as get hard-to-reach tag areas in the corners and things like that. We expect that using the drone-mounted reader will allow you to get faster sweep times and more accurate locations for hard-to-reach tags. We've still got some technical hurdles to overcome in implementing the system, but overall we've already seen some very strong results. We've got strong aerial tag reads, we've got fairly accurate locations, and very fast sweeping times for a small area. Overall, we're confident that the drone-mounted reader system can reduce sweep time allotments, increase laydown yard coverage, and in the end, just save time and money.
So now I want to talk about why you should choose Jovix. We've got proven experience. We're deployed globally across 350 sites in 13 countries. More than 80% of our customers have used Jovix in multiple sites. So they're coming back to Jovix and they're reusing it on new projects. The #1 EPC on ENR's top list has used Jovix on 8 projects in the last 5 years. So that's an incredible story about how that top EPC is reusing Jovix. So we save on direct labor, indirect labor, and material procurement. We're going to help your schedule, providing status as a proxy for schedule % complete. And we're going to help you with planning, material readiness with our work package planning, overage, shortage, and damage automation to ensure vendor compliance, and automated performance tracking of inspections to ensure vendor warranties are valid. So we can actually help you with that recurring inspections for materials that you're responsible for. So I'd like to call you to contact us on atlasrfid.com/contact-us and drop us a line. We'd love to talk and set up a no-cost assessment of your site project, or just to talk about maybe questions you might have.